into our next question, which is, how will the 49ers defensive line rotation play out this season? And, one of the biggest issues with the 49ers defensive line has been being able to contain the quarterback, right? They've done a good job as far as keeping them as far as pressure and as far as the holding back the receivers and not giving the quarterback the first option, second option that they were looking for. But then the quarterback that knew how to move all of a sudden was getting first downs with their feet, and the 49ers couldn't do anything about it. It seems like the 49ers were really understanding of that, and that some of the people that they brought in this offseason really looked to the mindset of speed guys that maybe could contain a little bit more. We're getting obviously Nick Bosa back. Got guys like Abacom, Arden Key's there. Some really guys that we're excited about. We don't know what D Ford, but if D Ford's in there, that's another, stud that's coming back. Tell me a little bit about what your overall thought process is about the defensive line and how you think it's going to play out, and if you think it's going to be anything different from, the defensive lines we've seen the last few years.
Yeah, I'll start off with, your first point there was talking about their ability to kind of maintain and handle a scrambling quarterback or an athletic quarterback that can move. And I think they're going to be better off with that, with Samson Ebukam being in there. He's shown that ability when he was with the Rams to really, keep guys like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray and in the pocket. And he did it with Patrick Mahomes as well, I think, in 2018 when they played him. And part of the reason he can do that is because he's a linebacker also, right? And so part of being a linebacker is you've got to have that ability to get into the blocker, shed him, and then you chase and make the tackle. And that's a lot of the way that he rushes the passer. Is he typically rushes a bull rush where he gets into the tackle, he drives him back, he gets his arms extended. He might not run around him necessarily, but he's got his hands there. And as soon as that quarterback starts to make any kind of a move, in his direction, he's able to shed and chase him down. Or if he takes off the other way, he's able to shed. He's got the speed to close and make the tackle. So I think in that way, you're going to have Ebukam is really going to help them out. Nick Bosa coming back is going to help them out, even though we don't know. At least we project him to, because we don't know exactly what he's going to be. His rookie year, I know he was coming back from an injury, but that wasn't a knee injury. That was a core injury, which wasn't going to limit his mobility like a knee possibly would. So he's now had injuries to both of his knees.
At least by the tape that we're seeing, he looks amazing. You know what I mean? So hopefully, if he's anything like the workouts he's posting, that's we're in good shape.
Oh yeah, no, he looks great in shorts and running around and all that kind of stuff, and he definitely does. How that's going to translate onto the field, we'll see that. I think I'm not going to say that he's not going to have a good season. I'm hoping that he can put up numbers similar to what he did as a rookie. If he can do that, I think they're going to be in decent shape, because I think Ebukam's going to do well. Ebukam allows them to put Eric Armstead down inside in those pass rushing downs. He's going to be the starting defensive end on the opposite side of Bosa in base downs, but then allow him to slide down inside and rush the passer from inside. And then Arden Key will be kind of right now they're kind of really thin on the edges. Excuse me. Oh wow, no problem. They're really thin on the edges. So that's the the area of concern. You kind of have Ebukam and Bosa and Arden Key, and after that, you don't really have a whole lot there, because Jordan Willis was probably going to be the next guy off the bench that would have been there, but he's suspended for the first 4 or 6 weeks of the season.
I think it might be 6 or 7.
Okay, it's probably 6 then. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and then you've got D Ford, but he's probably not going to play. Alex Barrett spent some time with them last year, and he's still there, but so. Your main guys, I think, are going to be Bosa, Ebukam, and Arden Key. Those are your three.
Now, how many? Just to put that in perspective, how many usually in that position would a good defensive line have? Like, what would be a good number to have of those speed rushers on the outside?
I think the 49ers. I think if you go back, I think they had a couple of more in 2019, because. They had Bosa was backed up early on in the season by the guy who just signed with the Jets, and I'm blanking on his name right now, number 98. He was their I wish I could remember his name, but I would say, I just think they're one guy short, maybe two guys short in that little bit of rotation. They're really deep in the middle. That's where they're deep. They have DJ Jones and Javon Kinlaw. They brought over Zach Kerr from Carolina, who he played for Arizona as well. They brought over Maurice Hurst from the Raiders, and then they have Kevin Givens in that mix too. So they're really solid inside. It's just on the edges they only have 3 guys. So
can Armstead play on the edge?
He's going to be on the edge on your base, right? So when you look at it, your base downs with the 49ers, you're most likely going to have Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead as your defensive ends, because they're very good there. Armstead does a good job of setting the edge, so that helps out there. And then you're probably going to have that with him rotating with Ebicom as far as that one side over there. And then on the other side, you'll probably have Arden Key backing up Nick Bosa. That's kind of the way I kind of foresee it playing out. And in the middle, you've got DJ Jones and Javon Kinlaw are probably going to be your starters in the middle, and you're going to have a rotation where you're going to get Zach Kerr rotated in there, and Maurice Hurst and Givens.
And this is kind of segueing. I kind of answered it, but Raymond is asking. This is a great topic. Appreciate it, Raymond. I came up with it all myself. Who is the best guy to fill on the edge? Is Key the only guy? Armstead trade or Armstead trade for an edge? And I'm really interested in hearing, because I've seen Armstead play on the edge. Do you feel like if they told him, hey, because of the way we're situated right now, can he be specifically just only focus on being an edge player? How do you think he would do if that was just his main focus, is I'm just going to be a guy that's on the edge?
Well, we kind of saw that last year, with him, and that, so him as an every down edge isn't a good fit. He just doesn't rush the passer very well. He doesn't do a really good job of containing the edge in passing downs. That's where he gets into trouble. He does a much better job. He does a much better job rushing up inside against the guards, because he's a really agile. He's agile to beat those interior guys. The outside guys are the ones he struggles with a little bit more. So he's a guy. I tweeted out a couple, like last week or the week before, where I said that he's kind of like a overhyped Paris Harrelson. If you remember Paris Harrelson from the 49ers team, he was the guy who was that edge setter on the defense. But they took him off the field in pass rushing downs, but he was a first and second down player, and then they took him off after that. And that's a lot of who he is. That's what his role is, but then he has that ability to play really well from the interior on pass rushing downs. So that's why I think the defensive line is going to be better, because you have Ebicom kind of playing that D4 role to allow him to get up inside. The only thing that concerns me is, and it also is an issue I think possibly for Bosa as well, is you don't have DeForest Buckner in the middle. And DeForest Buckner, regardless of what you want to say, he was an all-pro level guy when he was with the 49ers. He was an all-pro last year, and he really took a lot of focus on the, from the interior and their pass rush, and was able to do a lot of. 49ers were able to do a lot of things with him because of the focus that he drew. You don't have that anymore without him. Now you've got a guy in Javon Kinlaw who isn't, I don't think is scaring anybody on, an offensive coordinator with his pass rush ability. Same thing with DJ Jones. These guys are decent pass rushers, but they're not guys that you're going to game plan around, shutting down. So that's the issue that I could potentially see with Bosa, is that's where the focus is going to be. This is the one guy that scares us. We've got to stop him. And then let's let these other guys try to win their battles. And it'll be interesting to see if they can make those guys pay.
So who needs to step up? Would you say who's the most important? Obviously, Bosa, we kind of feel like we know what we're going to get with him. Who is the key component to the defensive line right now that really needs to step up, really needs to have a big season this year to elevate that defensive line to be, as scary as it used to be, in 2019?
Let's go ahead and let's say Javon Kinlaw. And the reason I say Javon Kinlaw is because, I think they might use him as that second rusher inside. So whoever that guy is the guy that needs to play well, because that guy's got to force offensive coordinators to want to account for him in the passing game, and not just say we're going to just go ahead and we'll be fine with our guard covering him. We don't have to worry about doubling him. So whoever that other guy is has got to be able to draw some additional attention, because you can only have so many guys blocking without keeping running backs and tight ends in,
right,
to help out.
So tell me a little bit, kind of, let's go big picture. How do you see this defensive line playing out? What are some of the key things? You kind of discussed it a little bit, but what are some of the key players that you're looking for, and who are you most excited about seeing this season on the defensive line outside of Bosa? Because obviously we're all excited about that.
Well, I'm really interested to see what happens with Ebicom. From everything that I've heard, his role is primarily going to be a pass rusher. When he was with the Rams, he was splitting his time between linebacker and rusher.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I've heard is the linebacker thing is really not going to be part of his. I mean, he's still going to do that every once in a while, but his main role with the defense is going to be as a pass rusher. So can he add some moves and some speed to his game, some other moves to where he can really become a threat off the edge on the other side? Because I think if he can do that, then you're going to see Eric Armstead inside making the plays, playing more of the role that he wants to play. And so those two guys are the ones that I'm most excited to kind of watch, because you're going to get them. I want to see Eric Armstead in his role where he's at best, which is on that inside pass rush. And I want to see Ebicom show a little bit more than what he did when he was at the Rams, because what he did show with the Rams was pretty good stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's a really high bar set because of that 2019 defensive line. But even if they don't reach that level at 2019, this could still be a really good and effective defensive line. There's a lot of depth. We're not even talking guys like you said. Hurst is there, DJ Jones is there. Arden Key is there. These are three guys who I believe can have very impactful seasons as well. And they're not even part of the those starters. So to see that kind of depth and see how these guys can really not only fit into roles, but they're coming in motivated. We have probably the best defensive line coach in the league, in Kusrik. So I just think that this defensive line can go back to being the strength of this defense, and really kind of spark the 49er defense to get back to, maybe not the levels of 2019, but, elevate from where they were last year, which last year they weren't a terrible defense. They just obviously was a big drop from where they were the year before. So we feel like they were, the worst defense ever,
Well, yeah, the defense was totally different because the defensive line wasn't putting the pressure on that they did in 2019. That was the biggest difference, was that the defensive line they weren't able to win consistently with 4 or maybe even 5. They were having to bring extra guys all over the place, which is why you saw more man coverage in the secondary and whatnot. So I think this defensive line is definitely going to be better than 2020's, but I don't think it's going to be quite as good as dominant as 2019. 2019 wasn't dominant for half the season, though, if you remember. Right? They were really good in the beginning, but then once Dee Ford got hurt, that defensive line slowed down dramatically. Right. And so that's why having a guy like Samson Ebicom, who is a younger Dee Ford, who is, he hasn't had any health issues, if he can come in and play 500, 600 snaps and really get after on the edge, can hopefully elevate this defensive line and have them be, a tick or two below. If there's just a tick or two below where they were in 2019, I think the Flyers are still going to be really happy with that group. Yeah,
and one thing that is important, in 2020, there was no complimentary football being played at all, right? Even if the defense had a great stand, they knew it was going to be, 3 to 5 plays, and they were going to be back on the field, right? Because they couldn't trust that the offense was going to move the ball with any regularity, or be able to really score enough points to where the defense could breathe at all, right? So yeah, I think this year, just with the way that the offense is built now, we're going back to a power running game. They bulked up the offensive line. They brought in, a great stable of running backs as well. It's going to help the defense out a lot, because they're going to be able to rest on the side. They're going to be able to stay fresher, and they're going to have that belief that, hey, we don't have to hold this team to 0 to 9 points to actually get a win. Our offense might be able to actually score 20 to 30 points and give us a chance to, actually win without playing perfect on defense. So I'm excited to see that, man. Anything else you want to point out about this defensive line?
No, I think we covered them. I think we covered them pretty well. I think that the other thing too. Well, the only other thing that I will say is I think we're going to see a little bit more blitzing. So that's going to be how we're going to get some of the pressure is going to come out of the blitzes from the linebacker position as well. That's
absolutely, man.